and Policy Division Committee here. The clerk will note the roll, and I know that we do have a quorum. So I'm pleased to see everyone here again this morning. We do have minutes because we had minutes from the last meeting. So Representative Brand, have you had a chance to look those over?
Yes, I've looked them over. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right. So Representative Brand moves to adopt the minutes from the January 15th, 2019 committee meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Motion prevails. Okay, so we're going to get started right away. Here we've got Andrea Velbel here to talk about the federal farm bill, and that's really, we're going to hopefully take about half an hour of time to do some things. And I just want to make a note that next Tuesday we'll have Lucas Sjostrom from Minnesota Milk come and talk a little bit more about dairy and the federal farm bill and the changes made with that. So she might not go very deep into that part of it. Just be aware of that. So I'm going to just turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Velbel.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So I wanted to first start off, this is the very first day of our new Government Affairs Director. His name is Peter Chesett. So you'll see him around the Capitol a lot, and he'll be setting up meetings with each and every one of you. But I thought we would just throw him to the wolves on his first day and have him sit up here with me and answer all the tough questions. So, Peter, if you just want to say a few words.
Sure. Madam Chair and committee members, again, my name is Peter Chesett. I did not expect you to know how to pronounce that on the first attempt. A little background about myself. I worked at the State Senate many years ago for former State Senator Steve Murphy when he was chair of the Agriculture Committee. And for the last 8 years, I've been in the governor's congressional office working on, among other issues, agriculture. So I'm just happy to be here and look forward to working with you all and getting to know you over the coming months.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, we were asked to do a quick overview of the 2018 Farm Bill and how that impacts Minnesota farmers. I will just say I'm not an expert on the Farm Bill, but certainly if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll get that information for you from a number of our very wonderful federal partners. So. For those of you who don't know what the Farm Bill is, the 2018 Farm Bill is a 529-page piece of legislation made up of 12 titles, covering a number of topics ranging from the farm safety net, nutrition, forestry, trade, conservation, rural development, among a number of others. It's up for reauthorization about every 5 years. President Trump signed the 2018 Farm Bill December 20th of last year. You probably heard about some of the delays in that, but we did get it done, so we're very excited about that. The bill is expected to cost about $867 billion over the next 10 years, and the nutrition programs make up about 80% of the Farm Bill funding. So some of the important provisions in the bill for Minnesota, as I mentioned, the farm safety net, and as Chair Poppe mentioned, dairy. I'm not going to go into specifics on that just because the experts will be talking about that next week, so I don't want to, I know you'll dive deeper into that next week. So, but we did want to acknowledge the importance of that piece in the bill. Industrial hemp, rural mental health, animal health, and then of course organic agriculture. So the farm safety net, the Farm Bill protects crop insurance, which is a major priority for farmers. It reauthorizes and strengthens the agricultural risk coverage, or ARC program, and price loss coverage, the PLC program. The difference now is that they'll be able to switch between those two programs easier. They can update yields if they face drought during the previous yield update. Reference prices will be able to adjust to improve market conditions, and ARC will use risk management agency, or RMA, data to minimize disparities between the counties that exist right now. Industrial hemp is something we've talked a lot about in this committee, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it more this session. For those of you who don't know, in 2014, the federal Farm Bill authorized industrial hemp pilot programs to exist in states that had laws that passed that, and we did have an industrial hemp pilot program law passed in 2015. Our first growing season was in 2016, and we are currently in our third growing season. So we've been sort of on the forefront of this for the last few years, and we have a lot of folks who are excited about the fact that it has been somewhat decriminalized in the 2018 Farm Bill. So it does define hemp as any part of the plant, including seeds, derivatives, extracts, and cannabinoids with a THC concentration below 0.3%. And THC, as you probably know, is the psychoactive ingredient that gives you the high. So 0.3%, what we like to say is you'd have to smoke a whole field and all you'd get is a headache. So the psychoactive piece in that is very minimal. So it was part of it was considered a Schedule 1 narcotic under the Controlled Substances Act, so the federal Farm Bill did permanently remove it from the CSA. And so states are required to submit a plan to the USDA, and we can impose our own internal restrictions, but we cannot interfere with interstate commerce. So all parts of the plan are able to move amongst state lines legally. We have not been able to submit a plan to USDA, obviously with the shutdown. That's been tough for us to figure out how they're going to implement this program. So we're operating now for the 2019 growing season as a pilot program, and then we'll look to implement the full commercial production for 2020. Hemp will also qualify for crop insurance now and other federal grant programs like the specialty crop block grants that we administer here in the state. Some of the things that we'll have to submit in our plan, things like maintaining locations of where the hemp is produced, testing procedures, disposal procedures if the product is in violation of that 0.3% threshold, and then also inspection procedures. And we also have to have a corrective action plan if folks go against what we outline in the plan. So again, we have all of that already in place for our pilot program, so that shouldn't be too much of a lift. Especially with the passing of the Farm Bill, we did get a very large increase in applications from folks around the state who want to grow hemp. Our last growing season, we had about 40 growers. This year, we have applications already for 110. So there's a lot of interest, and we expect that number to grow in the next few months. Rural mental health, Chair Poppy has been a huge advocate for this amongst a number of others, and she mentioned this on Tuesday. There's a lot we've been doing at MDA, and so we're just really excited to have more of a partnership on the federal level as well. And we've had a lot of really great Minnesota groups who've been advocating for this over the last few years. Representative Tom Emmer and Senator Tina Smith have been huge advocates for that, and so it's a big bipartisan effort, and we're really proud that they advocated for this. So the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network was reauthorized. And it does expand eligible entities to include state departments of agriculture. That was not otherwise in there, so we certainly intend to apply for some of those funds once that becomes available. It can be used to initiate, expand, or sustain programs with helplines, websites, support groups, outreach services, trainings for farmers and those who assist farmers. Certainly, we've been doing that on the state level as well. Some of you might have heard about our Down on the Farm workshops that were targeted towards folks who work directly with farmers to identify signs of stress and what kind of resources are out there to direct farmers that they might be encountering or having some trouble. So we can certainly use some of those funds for those types of things. Also our Farm and Rural Helpline and things like our Farm Advocate Program, which you'll be hearing more about next week. I just want to clarify that it is authorized for up to $10 million. The Farm Bill does not provide the $10 million, so we still have to secure that in an appropriations bill. But again, I know a lot of folks in Minnesota will be advocating for that, and we'll be right there with them to advocate to secure that funding. Animal health, obviously this is a big thing that we've worked on the last few years. In 2015, the outbreak of HPAI was one of the largest and costliest animal disease response in U.S. history. It cost USDA estimates it cost taxpayers about $1 billion in indemnity response and cleanup costs. So this is really an aim to do sort of a proactive, multifaceted animal disease program to safeguard our animal agriculture. So the Farm Bill creates the National Animal Disease Preparedness and Response Program. It'll focus on analysis and surveillance, outreach and education, biosecurity, training, and technology. And one of the foreign animal diseases we're hearing a lot about that we're monitoring is African swine flu. So that's something from African swine fever, which you'll probably hear more about in the coming weeks as well. The Farm Bill creates a national animal vaccine bank. It will maintain sufficient quantities of vaccine to allow for rapid response if a disease does hit us. And foot and mouth disease vaccine will be the initial priority. And finally, organic agriculture. So we do have 738 certified organic farms in Minnesota. We've got about 210,000 acres in organic agriculture, and that's grown a little over 80,000 acres in the last 2 years. So it does increase funding for the National Organic Program and the Organic Ag Research and Extension Initiative. Crop insurance agents will be required to include organic farming practices in their continuing education. And a big issue that we've heard a lot about through our Organic Advisory Task Force is combating fraudulent imports of organic products to the United States. A lot of times we're hearing about folks who are, it leaves, it might leave Turkey and it's non-organic, and then it shows up on American shores and magically it's organic. So the federal government is stepping in and creating a working group to establish members with USDA and Homeland Security to look into that and try and prevent that from happening again. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Wow, that was speedy. Yes, we do have some questions. So Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks for the quick update here. Going back, talking about the hemp, which is going to have a lot of interest, I think, in the coming year. Judging by the number of applications for acres this coming year. But my question deals with the banking and how that is going to work with industrial hemp. We're hearing that we can't get processing here because they can't get financing through a bank to get a loan, that type of thing. So how does the new Farm Bill address the banking situation in regard to hemp production?
That's a good question. You're exactly right. There were a lot of institutions who were fearful of financing a lot of these operations because of the nature of its, that it was illegal. So now they don't have to worry about that. Now it is removed from the CSA, and so they can legally operate and finance loans through their banking processes.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And in advance, I apologize. I was distracted for a moment, and that's always when this, the subject you're going to ask was set. So if you said this, I apologize. But was there anything that ultimately was done in relationship to the lab-grown meat?
Madam Chair, Representative Miller, I am not sure about that, but I can certainly look into that.
Okay, because Madam Chair, that at the end of last year, we were talking about state level, and they said, well, federal's probably going to address this, and then I had heard that had stalled from some of the groups. And so whatever the status is, I think it's something that we here in this committee should address if the federal government hasn't.
Thank you. Other questions? Representative Tabke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a quick question about during the shutdown. I have a few constituents who have asked me about if there anything that the state can do with regard to loan programs for seed purchase as well as discounts. And I know the FSA offices are going to be open shortly. I think there's a window here where they'll be open. But are there any opportunities for the state to help out with those types of programs? And is there anything that we're doing on that at this time?
Chair Poppy, representatives, thank you. I meant to address that question earlier. So yes, as you said, the FSA offices have been closed, but they are open today, tomorrow, and Tuesday during normal business hours. So we have been trying to get the word out to farmers to go to those select offices that are open. We did clarify that if you live in Stearns or Todd County, you can go to the Stearns County office and you can call there as well. So we're encouraging farmers to do that during those 3 days. And it is for select services, so things particularly for existing farm loans. There's not, we do have our Rural Finance Authority loan program, and so we've also been encouraging farmers to look at that to see if that would help with some of the impacts they're feeling from the federal shutdown. And we're also asking folks to reach out to our farm advocates to see if there's anything that they can do to help in the meantime as well, because they have a lot of resources and connections and can help them navigate that process. So we're hoping folks will reach out to their farm advocates as well.
Representative Tabke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What was the name of the program again that you just said?
The Rural Finance Authority.
Thank you.
You'll usually hear it as RFA. It's usually how we talk about it.
Representative Lippert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to the industrial hemp applications. Are there particular locations where those applications are coming from within the state? Concentration of locations, or are they spread pretty broadly throughout the state?
That's a good question. Madam Chair, members, so typically, and I haven't seen all of the applications that have come in, usually once we have all of the applications, we'll do sort of a map to see which regions most of its applications are coming from. But historically, they've been all over the state. So it's really been, we've had some in the 7-county metro area. We have some in the Northwest. We've got some in southern Minnesota. We've found them all over the place. So there's definitely interest statewide to grow industrial hemp.
All right, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for being late. I've had a couple of conflicts today, so I'm going to have to leave early too. But on the Farm Bill, I don't know how much time you spent on the conservation title, but I have some questions about the Conservation Reserve Program, and it's my understanding that the average rental rates have been reduced to 85% of the county average for the sign-up. And one thing, Madam Chair, I'd like to do in my budget is provide a way of incentivizing sign up to bring that up so it's competitive for farmers and landowners who want to enroll. So specifically on the incentive bonuses for sign up or for providing for additional cost share for the seed mixes that they may not be able to get covered so that they're not losing money on if they choose to go into a conservation reserve program. And I think this would also help on enrollment on a variety of practices with conservation reserves. So I don't know if you mentioned any of that, where the Farm Bill is, and if it allows that type of, if someone comes into the NRCS office and signs up, and then could they go right down the hall to the SWCD, and there would be a state check that could help with incentivizing their costs for that enrollment.
Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Representative Hansen, we didn't cover that in this presentation, but I can certainly get that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? We will put the PowerPoint on our website, so we've got that so people can look at it afterwards here. And I think we'll do that as well for what's coming up for the AGREETT. Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a quick one again. When you talk about applications to grow industrial hemp, does anybody who applies get the okay, or is there some kind of a screening process, or how does one go about knowing if they can or can't raise it?
Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Representative Anderson, that's a good question. There is a screening process, so we do require them to go through a federal background check, and we also make sure we know where their fields are. We make sure that they let local law enforcement know where those locations will be. But yeah, they are required to go through a background check process before they're allowed to be approved.
All right. If there are no more questions, then thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we will, like I said, we will put that on the website, and we will certainly have you back for doing more things in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
One of the wonderful things that happened in the last couple of years is the development of more research on behalf of agriculture. And certainly the lead here, the former chair, Hamilton, was very instrumental in bringing forward AGREETT. And that stands for the Agricultural Research, Education, Extension, and Technology Transfer Program. And so I think that's not on any card that I know of, Mr. Nicely, but we maybe could have put it on there. No. But today, we're going to hear about that, because I think it's really wonderful that we recognized, and Representative Hamilton really encouraged us to recognize the need for more research. And so today, we have Dean Buhr, who is going to walk through really what has been done with the money that has been received so far, and has some people who will help us to understand the work they're doing. So it's an exciting time to be able to hear about this. So I'm looking forward to it. So Dean Buhr, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Poppy, and thank you all for joining or having me here today. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about AGREETT. Before I begin, I do want to recognize I brought a few people with me who are part of AGREETT as well, and Dean Beverly Durgan has joined us today with Extension. Tom Molitor, who's the head of veterinary population medicine, is with us today, representing the College of Veterinary Medicine. And then we brought a couple of faculty that have been hired by AGREETT to also step to the podium a bit later, if that's okay with you, Chair, to present on some of the work they're doing with this. And I also wanted to recognize a bit before I start, and you did a bit of this, Chair Poppy, of Representative Hamilton, of course, in this committee was of strong support for AGREETT legislation coming in. It has been, I would call it a game changer for research in Minnesota and extension activities to have real impacts from agriculture research to the farm level, which was part of the legislation, talks about bringing it to its full conclusion, which is getting it adopted. I think, as Dr. Borlaug once said, take it to the farmer, kind of an issue. So that we take it all the way from the basic research and sciences to applied and then on to the farms. So it's been a tremendous piece of legislation for us to do that. I also want to recognize the Department of Agriculture, and several of them are here as well, because it is going through the Department of Agriculture as a funding source. We work with them extensively. And then, of course, it also has an advisory council that works with it. And that's represented by about 23 individuals from across agriculture and food systems to advise and counsel on how we might best utilize those funds to have impact. So there's been quite a few people engaged with it, and I think it's been a very strong process of getting feedback and input to the work we're doing. So with that, proceed through the presentation that we have here. I'm happy, actually, if in the middle of that you had a question, I'd be happy to respond to that, but we'll work through it as I go. And I wanted to start with a big background. This was actually a slide when we started this, and this issue of what's the impacts of agricultural research and ag R&D. And a couple of items on this is agricultural R&D is sort of a slow motion thing. You know, most of our R&D takes years. If you think of the Honeycrisp apple, for example, or the latest, the first Kiss, for example, the development of those started 30, 40, and 50 years ago to bring those into a place where they're part of Minnesota's economy. You think about that of all the crops we do. And so it's the kind of thing that investments have now often occur much later. And these two maps, the one on the left is just a symbol, that's essentially all of the land in Minnesota now that goes to agricultural production. And of course, take that to its conclusion of feeding the population, ensuring they have stable and safe food supplies. The darker green part of that, of course, is the northern forests, and then much of agriculture goes to the southern and western side of Minnesota, where the agricultural lands are. We did a bit of a thought experiments in our applied econ program and looked at what would happen if we left technology the same place it was in 1950. So if you went to that, so let's not take all the corn varieties, the fertilizers, and so on that came into agriculture and technologies, remove that from the equation and said how much land would we be using to feed our population today, and that map on the right basically shows that. And if you look carefully at the numbers, we have about 26 million acres of Minnesota, 51 million acres total in agricultural production. If we took those technologies out, we would have 57 million acres. If you do the math on that, that's 6 million more acres than we have in Minnesota. And you can expand that globally to talk about, without agricultural technology innovation, where we might be today. I don't want to emphasize the food part, but a big part of this natural resources, conservation, sustainability issues too. You know, clean water, available water. You know, certainly we understand the impacts on ecology, for example, that's becoming more of this process. But obviously turning land into feeding people removes all those opportunities. So it's really a critical part of sustaining not only food for people, but our natural resource and environment. And we're dedicated, and AGREETT is dedicated to doing that work. This is a quick, I won't spend a lot of time, you know, economist needs to bring a graph. Can't do without it. And this is just a perspective on some of the shifts in funding for ag R&D that have occurred over the years. And over time, the public side of this, that red line, has been declining fairly dramatically. And if you look at the share of R&D, the public side of that has been declining over time. And this is a total U.S. ag R&D. So the two implications for that is the ability to do research that affects a broad set of activities that we may not always address with private dollars. And I won't get into the details of that, but certainly if you think about the long-range return that I was talking about for investments in agriculture, in the private sector, it's difficult to plan that 20 and 30 years down the road of how do you sustain those profits. And that's not to diminish the importance of the private sector. It's simply the issue that there are elements in environment issues and those long-term front-end what-if kinds of research that can be done in the public sector that's very critical to moving that forward. And then the adoption of that through extension programs and other things is really critical as part of that public funding. And that share has been declining. There's a competitiveness issue to it. We talk a lot about trade and competitiveness with agriculture now. And one of the big issues is we have been declining dramatically relative to other countries like China and India, and the rest of the world have been making significant investments where the U.S. has been declining, where we have been a world leader for the last 50 years. So this legislation by the state of Minnesota was incredibly important, and I think has a lot of foresight for addressing those issues broadly. Global impacts coming from Minnesota leading on some of these issues. I talked a lot about the land grants. We're one of the few land grants in the country that are able to make the hires we're making now. And we're kind of the envy of some of the people we go to when we talk about that. And it's because of the work that was done here. So very positive in regards to those aspects. And that's why, you know, Minnesota, through the AGREETT legislation, chose to invest in ag R&D, recognized that it was important not only for our farmers and the economy, but also for our consumers, for the environment, and took that step. And just a few of the key features to talk about a little bit. It was to support agricultural productivity growth. And that's exactly what that first map showed, using less resources to provide the food we need. How do we sustain that productivity growth? And one of the issues we see in agriculture is we're always under pressures from various sources to that productivity. And so, you know, examples are some of the climate change issues and adapting crops. If you look where crops are in Minnesota, it's kind of fascinating. We moved corn about 150 miles north over the last 30 or 40 years. Some of that's due to corn varietal changes. Some of it's due to the ability to grow corn longer season crops in a northern climate. How do we adapt our technology to those issues? We know that there's some resistance issues related to antimicrobials in animals, for example. And so that's a place where you're losing some of the technology you invested in is being depleted because they're no longer as effective. So how do we develop the next range of addressing those issues? So that productivity challenge in a biological system is always there. How do we stay ahead of some of those challenges to our agricultural and food systems? So really that, I think, was a key piece to this legislation as well, recognizing that that was an element. The priority written into the legislation was human infrastructure. And if you think AGREETT is catchy, human infrastructure is really a catchy phrase. I'm not sure if people like to be called human infrastructure. But the point was that we need people to be able to, A, do the research, and B, take that, as I said, to the farmer, to the public, to be able to implement, adopt, and move that forward. And recognizing that our faculty, our extension educators, are all part of bringing that technology, A, to the table, and then B, getting it out to the people who can use it. And so the focus is really on investing in those people to do that work. And I put on here that deploy technology as well, that piece of getting it into practice was really important because that's where the economic impact is. There's an advisory panel with it, I mentioned, and just very briefly, it's co-chaired in the legislation, the commissioner and the College of Food, Agriculture, and Natural Resources representative. That's the dean of the College of Agriculture. So as that moves along, of course, Commissioner Frederickson, who I didn't mention by name earlier, was really helpful and supportive of putting this work into place. I want to recognize his. And of course, we just had our advisory panel meeting on Thursday last week, I believe. And so, of course, Commissioner Peterson has also stepped in and had been very supportive of our work as well. And so we're excited to have him on board and moving this ahead. Panel representation. I put the broad categories in here, and you can read through those. I won't go each one. But there are representatives from Minnesota State colleges. And I think that's critical. In fact, I won't talk about it much today, but as part of the overall AGREETT legislation, some of that funding went to the farm management programs at the Minnesota State two-year colleges, so Central Lakes College, for example, South Central, Riverland, and so on. And that was to support farm management professionals working on our farm business management associations. And I think that's been critical. That also rolls up to the university. We work with them on that. But helping farmers now, when you think about some of the financial challenges I'm sure you'll hear about this year with agriculture, that piece of this legislation helps to supplement that assistance and support for farmers in their financial planning and management processes. It also cuts across many of our commodity organizations as well as representatives from natural resources areas and organic and sustainable systems. So we tried to bring this legislation brought a large group of people to the table, many varied interests, to try to provide input to the University of Minnesota, since we're the carrier of this, on what we could do to make the best investments of that money. And that panel is also, it's been really, I think, interesting and actually kind of fun to see that group of, I think there's 23 or 24, I may have the exact number wrong on that, if I count them up, somewhere in that range, to see those 23 or 4 people come together to talk about what are some of the bigger issues that we have to address in ag and food, and where do we make these investments. And not just go into the issue of this and this is our interest. It's about how do we support broader agriculture, and we've really navigated that. It's been a great conversation about some of the issues around education and extension and research. The funds appropriated, the dollar amount, and I apologize, I think in your packet I have in there $9.3 million per biennium. That was my mistake, it's per year. I'm used to thinking biennial math and put biennial and didn't catch it. So it's $9.3 million per year that goes is appropriated to the Department of Agriculture's base budget. It does move through to the University of Minnesota. We have a contract to move that through, that appropriation. And some of the designations to break that down, the part we typically talk about is the $4.8 million that's delegated in this consultative process I was referring to with the advisory group. And that includes representatives from the University of Minnesota, and Pat Mann and Extension and myself are typically there, as well as the membership we talked about. We meet about quarterly, about 4 times a year. We meet very regularly to discuss positions, what the priorities are, and continue to move that forward. The $2 million to MALSE. MALSE is the Minnesota Agricultural Education Leadership Council. They're charged with agricultural education from K-12 through to the Minnesota State colleges, and with the University of Minnesota. They're actually located on the St. Paul campus. And there were $2 million for the farm business management grants that I referred to. $1 million for avian influenza research that's appropriated annually. I'll talk some more about that a bit later on as part of that. And then there were 2 related to wild rice and potato breeding that was in the bill that was also appropriated. And then rapid response funding. And I'll talk about that later too, but as you know, there's already some rapid response funding that comes from the state to address issues of importance that arise, and actually avian influenza is a good example of that, something that's immediate, that's occurring rapidly, we have to address and move quickly on. And another $600,000 comes through AGREETT. We actually moved those two into a common pool so we could manage that in a way that was more effective and get it out there. We do make sure that we keep some in reserve in case there's a surprise rapid response that comes up, which does happen. So that's been very good as well. This is a little hard to read, but as you can imagine, agriculture in Minnesota is one of the really interesting and great things about it. It's highly diverse. From vegetables and fruits to row crops to forages for animals, dry edible beans, sugar beets, you name it, across the board, very diverse. So when we started doing this, we talked about, do we think about those individual areas of work we have, or do you think about these bigger questions that are more pressing in agriculture? And the set of pillars are really some areas that we came to that we thought were broad scope that could affect, as I say in this, doing the most good for the most people and having that impact. At times, we have to recognize that, for example, if you're going to work in swine medicine, for example, a pig is different than a chicken, so you have to hire someone that's in swine, to do that. But the idea was looking, for example, at crop and livestock genetics. The improvements and the incredible advances there. What are the opportunities to improve productivity through that? Microbial sciences, which is really a lot of that is health and disease issues. And also positive microbes. So now we're looking at microbiomes in soils and how to affect soil productivity and fertility. We look at human gut microbiomes. How do we digest food and how the nutrients get through that? And microbiomes, our ability to manage, is becoming really, the capabilities are expanding rapidly. And it's kind of along the lines of let the natural biome, the natural system we have, improve our food productivity without using synthetic compounds and so on that we've had. So there's an advancing technologies there that are really dramatic. We thought we agreed that was an area. Soil fertility, soil health, water quality. You can't talk about agriculture much without talking about water and soil health. And so that's an area of looking to advance those outcomes. Precision agriculture is really about the technologies and innovation we have for precision technologies, engineering, sciences, measurement sciences, data practices. And you move through this, natural resources, of course, agroecological issues. Some of you may have heard of a program called Forever Green. I call it novel crop systems, developing crop systems that improve the water holding capacity, soil fertility, and health of that ecosystem, perhaps habitat for wildlife and pollinators, for example. This agroecological zone is a big area of interest. And then technology stewardship. I talked about earlier just that thing where some of the technologies we've developed are being eroded by simple evolutionary pressures from a biological system. So those were kind of our big areas. These are the areas we think that really will move agriculture and food systems forward in productivity and food availability. So that kind of frames, as we have these conversations, we don't go down into all the single areas that might be of interest, but we think big picture about how this impacts both the environment and people again, and then bring that to fruition. Chair Poppy, you.
Yes, I'm just going to ask a question
Sure.
here. So obviously very broad and very big.
Yep.
How did you just take the first step and figure out, okay, what are we going to do to begin with? And maybe that's your next
Chair
slide.
Poppy, great question. So we have you right on schedule. So this is our first set of positions. How do we get started? We went through a process of prioritization, of course. So we had an initial conversation, big pictures, get our framing around that. And then we basically, the University of Minnesota, we have our strategies and priorities around faculty positions, extension educators, where we have needs or we see needs developing from our conversations with many different constituent groups and also our department heads and so on. So we had that priority set. And then we asked the advisory board to sort of bring their priorities to the table. Just let's have a conversation. We had several meetings where they would talk themselves. We did some survey work and asked about what are the needs that you see out there among your constituents. And then we brought that together through conversation and discourse and had a winnowing out. We did align that with the budget process that helped to bring it to a reality. You had to spend the funds. And so it was basically a matter of how many positions could we do this time, what were the timing. So this is actually, to be fully deployed, it'll take about 2 more years. And mainly because we have some funds to go out to startup funds so people can start their research programs or extension programs. And those come back because we expect them to raise funding themselves later. And so then we can take that money back and hire the next round of positions. So it's sort of rolling piece. So we didn't have to put it all in place at once, which is great because that way we started to learn from each other what those priorities were. We could make some choices, kind of start small, scale, think big kind of a thing. So we started with getting those first positions on the ground and then moving from there as we rolled along. So it's kind of a messy, as you can imagine, coming to conclusions with a large set of people doing that. But it has been, that's why I say this group engaging with each other 4 times a year for the last 3 years or so, you start to build some dynamics that have been very positive as far as getting to the real, I think, some really positive questions. And I won't go through each of these positions just quickly, but this was the first round of positions that we identified and hired through that. You'll see the mix across CFANS, College of Veterinary Medicine, that's CVM, CFANS, College of Food, Agriculture, Natural Resource Sciences, and Extension Educators. And I won't go through each of those. You can see kind of what their names are. But it's really, I think it's really critical in this process to recognize that none of these questions are going to be solved by one of these areas. So the red positions that are faculty lines at the university, you'll see often those are extension positions. Those are extension research positions, faculty. If you look carefully across the extension educator side of that, we also align the extension educators taking that research to its fruition with those faculty positions. So we thought about how do we get the best linkages across these hires that we could get to go from research on forward to getting it out into practice through extension. So that was the concept to your question, Chair Poppy, about how we did this. There was a lot of thought into both the structure, the funding, and then finally, we have to put the money into play with these positions and how we did that.
Thank you. Any other questions at this point? Yes, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I really appreciated the comment about climate change. That we constantly have that debate on climate change and whether it's man-made or not. And when I was asked whether or not I believe in climate change, I said, well, first of all, climate change always has, always will. And then the follow-up question was, do you believe in man-made climate change? And I said, I take this approach. I think that question in itself is irrelevant for the simple fact we should always be striving to do better with things that are management practices and otherwise. And we can accomplish this goal by reaching out to the university and being able to support the funding mechanisms and others for additional research. And like I said, we can see examples of climate change in the form of agriculture and as Dean Brian Buhr laid out. The other thing I'd like to comment on before we move forward is the example on the first page there with the 2 maps. And I said if we don't embrace high-yielding forms of technology, the world will have to suffer one of 2 fates. We'll either have to plow up critical habitat or farm critical habitat, or allow even more people in the world to starve to death, and neither one are acceptable. And so I'm very grateful for what the university is doing, and I'm also very grateful to hear what the individuals that we've been able to bring on board. This is exciting times, and I hope, Madam Chair, that we're able to not only preserve the AGREETT accounts, but also look towards additional investments in the future. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Okay, I just have a quick question. Dean Buhr, I notice under crop systems, there's a parentheses Morris, and I'm just wondering, are these located Twin Cities? Are they located Crookston, Morris, other locations?
Yeah.
Outreach centers, where else? Just if you'd follow up on that, and then you can continue after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, they are located and strategically across the research and outreach centers as well as in the extension offices across the state. And many of them, if I were to count these up, I'd guess there's probably 4 that have gone to the total that have gone to the research and outreach centers in terms of the faculty, and the rest are in St. Paul. And then, of course, the extension educators are in their regional offices. So we are, and that's another good question, because we are thinking about that in the mix of one of the elements is a lot of the work that's being done on data analytics and what's happening out in the field. The research centers are becoming really important for getting those landscape level issues. So we're thinking critically about how do we position researchers there that might be effective. So.
Thank you. You can continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to give you a sense, I'll move through these quickly, but this is, so for the lines in that other slide, this is the more interesting part. These are the faculty who have been hired. These are the CFANS AGREETT faculty. I will emphasize that if you read across there, you see they're across, these are getting distributed across. Agriculture is a complex intersection between technology, biology, land, water issues. So we have these hired across animal science, applied economics, soil, water, climate, bioengineering, agronomy, horticulture. All those dimensions come into that. And it's fantastic. These are exciting young people who are really aggressively, and what's really exciting to meet with them is they're mission driven. They are about how do we solve this challenge that Representative Hamilton was talking about of feeding the world and not plowing up our resources. So it's really exciting to see this energy come together as a cohort, which this has created of a group that's coming in to work on those. So this is just CFANS. The next one, College of Veterinary Medicine. And again, several of these are extension as well-based positions. Again, going across several areas. And you can see the pillars come through in this veterinary parasitology, which is basically sort of the epidemiology side of that piece. Bioinformatics, information system, precision aspects. Antimicrobial resistance, really technology stewardship, focused on animal agriculture. What do we do with those technologies? So you can see those coming through in those positions. And extension educators, a key element to this as well. 6 extension educators so far. So really broadly, again, and if you look across those, the names might not look the same in terms of the field area, but they do link across those other areas as well. So that gives you a sense of the segment of that.
All right, I have a question. If you did not have AGREETT funding, would these people be in positions, and how would that be funded?
Madam Chair, these positions would not exist. They would just not exist, and in fact, what I would say is we would likely have fewer positions overall because of that declining public funding piece, as well as, reality is some of that public funding, it isn't just state level, it's federal level, as well as grants and contracts related to that. So one of the things, when I say other people wouldn't be there, it'd simply be the funding allocations in general. But also, what these faculty bring is, we do look to faculty when we teach students. Of course, we have tuition generated from that, so there's a positive ROI to these faculty as well, directly into the system. It's a multiplier effect, I guess, called in economic terms. And so there's also grant writing, and we get the funding from grants from federal grants, NSF, USDA areas. So it actually has a positive spillover that builds on it. So no, these faculty would not be here, and we'd also be losing on the back end of that as well.
Thank you. All right, you can continue.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. And so we're not done. That was the first round. This next list that I have are positions in process. You can look through those. I won't go through each of those at their leisure, but in areas, we do look too. We're trying to do, I didn't mention, we do a bit of forecasting here. I often say that our faculty age about 12 months every year. I can do that math. And so we can kind of project that some faculty are nearing the end of their career versus those coming in. And so we're looking at where areas we think we're going to need to have new faculty coming in. So some of that planning comes in, just an example. So some of these relate to some of those aspects as well. So there's been quite a lot of thought given to that. There will be one other round yet coming up, but gradually we're getting to the end of the line. I think roughly about 4 more faculty position equivalents or extension educators will be possible yet that we haven't identified. And then we'll have put all this money into play over the last 3 to 4 years. So it'll all be working dollars at the state level. I'll go through, that's kind of the hiring part of this. I'll just go through, there were several other buckets, rapid response and so on. And I'll let you look at these. I think most members of the committee will be familiar with rapid ag response. As I said earlier, the idea is to bring some energy to significant problems in the near term. So you think about invasive species are the kind of things that have come over, that's weeds and cropping systems, or avian influenza, for example. Very focused on that. We have about 20 projects for FY 18-19. We have 10 more coming up, actually 1st of February. I can't say what they are right now. So the examples of work, just quickly, they follow right along those big issues: resistance management, soybean aphids, food safety in turkey, products from the farm to the processing side, financially stressed farmers. How do we address financial stress in the ag industries now? And certainly I've left out a really important part of this actually all along, the forest resources side. Forestry, of course, is a significant industry in Minnesota. So we did, in one of those positions, we do have a forest biometrics person looking at how do we improve the health of our forests. As you've seen with conversations around forestry in California have come up around the age and status of those. We're investing some of those, and of course they're stressed by invasive species as well. And so you can see that work gets deployed very quickly, very targeted. It's been a very highly successful and I'd say popular program across our constituents in agriculture and food systems. The avian influenza program, very similar to that, but focused on avian influenza. And as we learned this year a little bit too, that's one of those things that it rises and falls based on various factors. It's ever present, and we're looking at how do we improve our ability to surveil, to address, respond to, and of course try and eliminate potentially the threat of avian influenza. That's a much tougher mountain to climb. But it was really a focused program on that element in that. And of course, a lot of the work in avian influenza now spills right over to swine influenza because, of course, those are related pathogens. And so it has implications across that. So that pool does quite a lot of that work. And it's similar to Rapid Ag Response Fund, just a more direct version. I'll briefly hit the bridge and development grants. This is from the AGREETT funds. We did this because we had a lot of conversations with actually the advisory group about oftentimes there's grants that come out with faculty, and then they'll have, if you're working in the field, you have technicians doing the planting and harvesting and measurements and so on. And if your grants don't line up perfectly, you get a grant and you have a year that you don't get the grant. And actually some of the federal grants right now issue where you might have stopping that grants and you can't fund those technicians. And they're, of course, highly valued people that have other opportunities. We would lose those technicians. And that had gotten out to some of the people who were working on our research. So what we decided was to take a share of that money, $250,000 a year only. And we do is use that for bridge funding. And when it's done, it's really helped us to get more grants because for those faculty to bridge that gap, they can keep that technician there. When the grant hits, they're more able to move forward with the grant quickly and get it on the ground. So it's been a very popular program, both with our supporter, our constituents, external constituents, and with our faculty. And it's really helped us to sustain our grant, our research programs. This piece, very simply, we've used some of the funds, so occasionally we have some carry forward funds, and we believe in getting those funds invested in the work. So just a couple of investments that we've made over time. One is the soil testing lab at the University of Minnesota. It was basically a 1950s lab, not with much of the equipment needed for chemistry and physics that we understand about soil microbiomes, testing of oils, and so on. So we reinvested in that. I believe it was about $2.5 million, if I remember correctly. As this was coming together, one-time investment that goes back into the human infrastructure. Been very popular. It's another one of those areas that, of course, that provides services to the public broadly. If you're an urban gardener, if you're an urban agriculture person, soil testing lab comes in. If you're a farmer in Southwest, Southeast Minnesota, the same thing. So really kind of a broad-based important piece. And of course, the vet diagnostic lab has some investments in some of their technologies and equipment, of course, with the testing and diagnostics. So again, very broad, applicable things for the state. With that, I apologize. I may have taken longer than I thought it would, but I appreciate the questions. But Madam Poppy, if it's okay, what I wanted to do is introduce a couple of the faculty who are here with us.
Absolutely.
They are the stars of the show, certainly, no doubt about it. And so with me today, and I'll ask them each to come up, I think, in the order they're on the slide, but Jolene Hadrich is in the College of Food, Agriculture, Natural Resource Science, Applied Economics. She's an extension farm management professional. She just joined us this last year as part of AGREETT. And then Noelle Noyes, but I'll introduce her after Jolene joins me.
Welcome to the committee. You can first just state your name.
Jolene Hadrich.
Thank you. And then you can go ahead and welcome. We're glad to see that you are engaged in this and a part of it. So please present your information.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and representatives. I am really excited to be working for the University of Minnesota. I am actually from Minnesota. I grew up on a dairy farm in Stearns County. So I have lived away from the state of Minnesota for 13 years, but I have convinced a lot of people to come visit us during the state fair. So I am trying to bring tourism into the state those 12 days. But what I'm going to talk about today is some of the research that I'm working on as part of the AGREETT funds. So I started in the fall of 2017, and around this time last year, I was talking with a bunch of my colleagues about the opportunity of merging cow-level production data with financial data. And the reason for that is historically, I have had really great financial data that isn't tied to the management characteristics that is on the dairy farm. And that's really important for me because a dairy cow has a 9-month gestation. So the decisions that I make today on my dairy farm probably won't come into play until 2 or 3 years down the road. So the key is to have a long series of data in order to look at what those management decisions are and how it affects the financial success of the farm over time. So I was able to work with Minnesota Dairy Herd Improvement Association and the Minnesota Farm Business Management Association. And we were able to get 94 dairy farms to agree to share their past 5 years of data on both fronts with me. All the data will be housed at the U of M within the Center for Farm Financial Management. But we were able to promote this around this time last year. We got farmers on board by early summer, and we got access to the data in early fall. So right now, we're doing a lot of preliminary analysis. We're finding some really unique results, like in 2014, for some reason, our dairy cows had really high somatic cell counts, and that's just a measure of the quality of the milk, and that fluctuates depending on weather conditions, a series of other factors. So it was a really unique observation to find because now we can tie that back to our financial estimates at the farm level and see, was it a weather effect, was it a management effect, or was it just an anomaly in the system? So now we have the capability to go back and look at that. The other unique thing about this data set is it's the first in the nation to combine these two types of data sets for the dairy industry. I work extensively with the dairy economists out in the country. There are not a lot of us. I can probably count them on both of my hands. And a lot of my colleagues have told me once we get this figured out, they are more than happy to incorporate this type of setting at their university and see if there's a way to collaborate with the U of M on that front. So this not only is increasing the stature of the state, but also at a national level, which leads into my second point. I was able to recruit a graduate student to help me work on this project starting this past fall. She's been critical in me being able to move forward as quickly as I have been able to, and that's all due to the AGREETT dollars, in particular the startup package. So I had the money to offer her an assistantship so she could come and work for me starting this fall. It's also had a multiplier effect. Again, I'm an economist, so I use that word a lot, maybe. We just got done reviewing our graduate applications for the Department of Applied Economics. And due to this work, we've increased the exposure of farm management in applied economics at the U of M at a national level. So I have 3 students that I'm making funding offers to. One comes from a dairy farm in California. Another one has a Colorado and Nevada dairy background. And the third one is a Minnesota student who is an undergrad currently, and it comes from a dairy farm. So we're definitely increasing the exposure of farm management, again, at the state, but also at the national level. And then the last point that I just really want to emphasize as a result of this work is even though right now I'm focusing on dairy, or at least talking about my dairy research, I am working with crop producers. But all of this work may directly benefit the dairy producer initially, but it also has a broader reach because there's a lot of businesses that are supporting the dairy industry in the rural communities. So I'm working pretty closely with local feed mills, veterinarians, genetics companies. They're all very interested in this research because if we can identify a management characteristic that we really need to hone in on, it can better the whole system rather than just one specific entity. So it has a pretty broad reach. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions you may have for me.
Anybody a question? Thank you.
I have one
Yes,
question.
Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the testifier. The research that you're performing, is that available to all dairy farmers, regardless of size, method, whether they're organic or others? Is this available for everybody?
Thank you, Representative. The results of the research will be available for everyone. You bring up a very good point. The farms that participate in both DHIA and FBM, we have over 3,000 dairy farms in the state. We only have 400 that participate in this program. So I am sampling a quarter of the ones that participate. But the results of the research will be extendable to all of the producers in the state. We're working really strongly with Extension to build existing dairy programming. One in particular is a value-added program. Another one is looking at just dairy risk management. So yes, it will be.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming forward.
You're welcome.
Good luck with all of your research.
Thank you, Jolene. With that, I will introduce Noelle Noyes. She's with the College of Veterinary Medicine. She, again, has an extension appointment with her professorship. She's focused on pre-harvest food safety and through farm and processing.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, representatives. I think I want to just make a couple of points using a story. When I received the job offer to come to the University of Minnesota, I was actually living in Colorado, and I was in a program at Colorado State University, combined veterinary medicine and PhD program. And I had actually a fair amount of months left in that program before I could come here to the University of Minnesota, but I really wanted to sort of get started on some projects and particularly some funding opportunities before I got here. And so there was a particular opportunity from the USDA for organic agriculture. And I wanted to put together, it was a large opportunity, up to $2 million, and I wanted to put together sort of a large project, multi-state, multi-institution, and then also working with farmers directly for this project. And I think there was a bit of skepticism, both from myself and other people, as to whether I could get this proposal, 50-page proposal written remotely, having only been ever in Minnesota for 3 days for an interview. And so I started this process of writing this proposal and trying to get all these collaborators together. And I have to say it was just pretty amazing how easy that process was because of the existing infrastructure and networks within Minnesota. And so I was able to very quickly get involved with the research and outreach centers, specifically in Morris, where they have a dairy herd. I was able to get in contact with multiple organic dairy farms across the state of Minnesota, and then also Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas Tech through collaborators that are already at Minnesota. I was able to get in touch with veterinarians across the state of Minnesota because there's a strong veterinary network. And so all of these things came together actually fairly magically, in my opinion, because of the existing resources here. And so we submitted that grant, and life went on. And, I think 10 or 11 months later, I moved to Minnesota. And I was in my office on the third day of work, and my phone rang, and I didn't even know I had a phone in the office at that point. But it rang, and I thought I better answer that. And I answered it, and it was USDA saying your project has been funded, which was also fairly amazing because it was a first proposal. And I'm really excited about this. This was now 5 or 6 months ago when I started here that we found we were funded, and we are now enrolling organic dairy farms across Minnesota and across the nation in this project where the USDA, I think probably the first project where we're actually going to be collecting about 8,000 samples from dairy cows, looking at the microbiome of their mammary tissue and understanding how the microbiome relates to mastitis, which is one of the biggest problems on dairy farms, both organic and conventional dairy farms. And so this is a really exciting project because it's what I love to do, which is to merge sort of basic scientific discovery with problems that farmers are actually experiencing in their own practices. And so the cool thing about this project is that we really get to work across states, and actually the dairy farms that are being enrolled in this study also now get to network with other organic dairy farms across the country. And so there's some really interesting sort of cross-fostering going on there that I didn't even anticipate when we wrote this proposal. So that's just sort of a demonstration, I think, of the importance of the infrastructure that already exists within Minnesota and sort of the strength of that in helping people like myself and other researchers put these large multi-million-dollar projects together and be successful at the national level to bring in that sort of funding on such a quick turnaround, right? So that was really eye-opening to me. And when Dr. Buhr mentioned that Minnesota is sort of like the envy of other land grant-funded universities, I have to agree, coming from Colorado State, that this program has definitely national recognition, and at Colorado State it's very well known, and the fact that Minnesota is hiring across all of these diverse areas with so many positions and so many resources is quite amazing and definitely receives recognition across the country. Yeah, so just some areas that we're looking at in my lab now. One is, of course, this microbiome and how we can leverage the microbiome to try to come up with novel treatments and preventions for mastitis, which of course would help us reduce antibiotic use in dairy farms, which is something that everyone's interested in doing. We also look at antibiotic resistance and use in swine right now. We have a project with a veterinary practice and producer in southwestern Minnesota looking at how we can change antibiotic use protocols to decrease use while also not compromising animal health and welfare for PRRS virus specifically, which is a big problem in swine production. We have some poultry projects going on, looking at different diseases of poultry and antibiotic use. And then I also have a food safety component to my research, so funding from the National Pork Board and then also North American Meat Institute, looking at food safety issues within slaughter plants. So sort of a comprehensive research portfolio, and again, could only be accomplished because of the resources that really exist here in Minnesota. And so I'm about 6 months into this position, and I think one of the things that I didn't realize that would be one of the most rewarding things about the job is really mentoring students. And so I did bring one of my students, Chris Dean, and so he's sort of representative of, I think, what attracts really talented students to the University of Minnesota. He's actually a computer science undergrad, and he's come to the vet school here because he's really interested in applying advanced big data techniques to agricultural production. And so he'll be leveraging his sort of really data heavy computer science skills to help us sort of get all that we can out of the data that we're generating. So he's one of the students that I think is exemplary of what University of Minnesota can attract. And he's from Colorado, and I have other student from Pennsylvania, a Minnesota student, and then also a Colorado student. So again, the national reach of this university is quite impressive. So yeah, thanks for letting me talk today, and thank you for this funding opportunity. I'm really excited to be a professor at University of Minnesota, and yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions? Sure. Thank you for you're very vibrant and obviously very skilled and talented, and we are excited to have you in Minnesota.
Thank you very
It's a
much,
great
Madam
hire.
Chair. Thank you,
Dr.
Madam
Buhr.
Chair.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Noyes.
All right, you can continue. You have more to present, or you have more
Madam
people?
Chair,
or-
I think they said everything better than I could have possibly said it myself. And I'll just point out, we are excited to have these great junior faculty here working on this project. And I hope you heard the integration that's happening across these sciences and disciplines, some of the impacts that's already occurring on our farms and our agricultural communities. And then also some of the science and the students that are being trained and so on. That's all part of this that's coming out of this program. So I want to thank certainly the Ag Committee and those who've helped with this, Madam Chair.
I know we have a couple of questions or comments. Representative Eklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was listening through this, and the Dean Buhr, the $450,000 for wild rice breeding.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard an awful lot of about wild rice the last few years down here, and so my question is that for commercial operation rice production?
Dr. Buhr.
Yes. Madam Chair, Representative, it is for cultivated wild rice breeding, as we call it. A quick comment about that. We have and are in the process of working with Native American communities on addressing some of the questions regarding indigenous wild rice stands and preserving and protecting those as well. So we work across those different areas.
Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for answering that, because in particular, talking to some of the bands that have their own commercial operation of true wild rice, they are a little concerned about the possibility of strains changing and having an influence on native wild rice stands. So I guess I'd maybe like some follow-up on what your person in charge of that is doing, and she can contact me directly if she wants. That's fine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Dean Buhr, if you could comment a little bit, I believe we invested $600,000 a year for 3 years on a data and networking system at the University of Minnesota. Yeah, can you comment on that a little bit?
Dr. Buhr.
Madam Chair, Representative Hamilton, I'm not sure the amount, but we have significantly invested in that, and some of that funding has come from MnDrive, actually, just to move in another direction. And to the data analytics that was discussed with the student, we've created a platform around that in the College of Food, Agriculture, and Natural Resource Sciences and with the Supercomputing Institute in the College of Science and Engineering to work on these big data issues. That has grown. I'm pleased to say this last, about a month ago, we received an award for $14 million to work on. It's actually with converting farmers from into different crop systems, how do you mount it in a landscape. And it has come out of some of the funding from this as well. It's been multiple sources. And it is a critical part. It's one of those areas we think of as a platform. That a lot of the work that we do on crop systems, environmental natural resources in particular, some of the genetics and so on, resides on that. And so we're building that out, and it's been a key part of this. And I'll also note that last year, to this Minnesota leading the country, another aspect that came, I think, partly through this committee, but it was approved by, was data privacy regarding data practices. So we could work with farmers' data without concerns regarding the publicness of that. We do make the general results public, of course, was stated earlier. But that's been another one of these game changers. We're one of the few places that can protect private data that's private. And then that allows us to capture some of the farm level data that's being talked about that doesn't, because it's a significant issue on security. So yes, that has been a part of this, Representative Hamilton.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dean Buhr, one of your slides, you talked about the diversions kind of between public and private research. And my question is, the work that your folks are doing, is it independent, or do you leverage some of your dollars and work with privates, or is what you do strictly through the university and you don't involve any private dollars or research in that?
Dean Buhr.
Madam Chair, Representative Anderson, we do work extensively with the private sector on this in collaboration. And I would say one of the areas that really that facilitates is the University of Minnesota has a scope and breadth of research that relatively few private sector companies can manage. And so oftentimes what happens is, and an example is we have some work in oat breeding going on. And part of the oat breeding question is a crown rust disease. We work with some of the oat companies, and of course General Mills and the Twin Cities is one of those, on developing resistant strains of oats to bring that back into crop rotations. Most of the companies that sell oats, the General Mills, the Quaker Oats, PepsiCo, don't have their own agronomics divisions working on those questions. And so as those questions come up, which we view as potentially bringing more cover crop back to Minnesota, early rapid growing sands, we're working with those companies to try to develop those strains. Of course, they help to fund and support those projects. And then, of course, when they advance the demand for oats then, because we have more oats, then that moves that through the chain. So we work pretty extensively. That's just one example across the private-public intersections.
Representative Anderson.
Thanks again, Madam Chair. And you mentioned the oats thing. In one crop that's kind of caught my attention as being interesting is perennial wheat, and some of your folks have worked on that. How is that coming, or will you have somebody else here at another day to talk about that as a cover crop and one that could be planted for 4 or 5 years and without having to work up the ground?
Dean Buhr.
Madam Chair, Representative Anderson, yes, we are working on that. And the program, I'm sure you'll hear a lot about this year's Forever Green initiative, is where we're doing the intermediate wheatgrass, which is the other strain of wheat. And that has this whole class of potential crops that we're investigating. Been going on for quite a while to look at their ecosystem service values. How do they improve water quality, soil fertility, soil health issues? If we're looking at more variable rainfall and so on, what does that do in drought conditions? How does it perform? So that is a crop that is moving along. It's being demonstrated, for example, I know as an example, General Mills is using it in research trials to test it across their flour production systems. And a lot of that has to do with, they have some goals regarding carbon sequestration that they've made for their sustainability initiatives. So it's coming into play both as a food crop, which is, I think, the real exciting part of this, and as something that has ecosystem service values. And so what the challenge is, how do you get those values into a market, right? So we're looking at how do we get that, capture that value ecosystem services, which ties back to the data analytics part of this, is we're now able to measure what's happening in the soil regarding these crops, and then you can start to predict what's the value of that ecosystem service on reduced erosion and those kinds of things. And at least for someone who's attempting, like General Mills, to claim their sustainability, we can verify that sustainability. So then it becomes a question: are people, are consumers willing to pay to have that part of this along with have their Cheerios and get the ecosystem too, I guess would be a way to put it perhaps. So we are working across that. It's coming along very rapidly. Other areas are camelina, pennycresses, oilseed crops, for example. And we look at them as integrating into our agricultural systems, not displacing, that they can be integrated into those areas that are most sensitive. So you can think of it as sort of a CRP type allocation as well. But it's got some really interesting concepts for how we improve our habitat, improve our natural resources, and provide food. That common theme is through much of the work we're doing. So, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Dean Buhr, I have a question about the cycle. You said, as you've gotten the money and you've started people and are continuing to add people, what do you anticipate as far as how long of time before you can start revolving the funds and being able to perhaps hire new or different again and keep this going? Is there a time frame that you're considering or looking at?
Yeah, Madam Chair, that's kind of a two-part question. In the short run, the funds that we have now that are appropriated to AGREETT, we will have expended those funds into personnel because we're moving towards human infrastructure side of that. We'll have that expended by about 2021. And at that point, unless somebody leaves, takes another position, retires, resigns, whatever happens, that money will be in those salaries. We do look at that as still generating, as Dr. Noyes was talking about, actually generating the grant funds that come back to do that. But at that point, we would have sort of stopped the cycle. The cycle I was referring to was that, and Dr. Noyes mentioned this, a startup package to fund grad students to get their labs running. That does come back every 2 years. So we had been cycling on this it's about a 2-year for some of those funds to rotate back in. But once we have this funding expended, that will be in those positions.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone else from the audience that would want to come down and comment on AGREETT? All right. Well, I think this was a wonderful presentation and a great initiative. And again, thank you, Representative Hamilton, to this committee, to Dr. Buhr, and certainly Commissioner Frederickson and others who have been engaged in the process and came forward with the idea. It sounds like it's doing wonderful things, and we all anticipate hearing more and more about it as it goes along. So thank you for your time today.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Okay, I have one other thing. On Tuesday, I passed around this bill, and I just wanted to describe it a little bit more in case anybody had any questions. So this is to actually increase current funding for the farm advocate and mental health. I know there's a question about the size of the number of pages of this bill, because there's lots of information in here about what we're currently doing, and that's intentional. It is current funding, so it would be increasing current funding, but also long-term. So just if anybody wanted to add their name to it, I'm just going to have it here, and then I'll be putting it in the hopper later today. So if you had questions about it, please feel free to ask me. I know that next week we will be talking about rural mental health and farm advocates, and I know that Representative Keel has some bills, and this one will be talking about anybody else who wants to put forward bills. We certainly encourage you to do that, but keep in mind that that's probably, we're going to start hearing some bills as we get them in the committee. So just wanted to clarify that. And other than that, once we adjourn, we will be meeting again on Tuesday. So thank you for your time today, and meeting adjourned.